Good morning and welcome to Ports America Chesapeake's Expansion and Technology Update. My name is Bart Hogans and I serve as the Vice President for Ports America Chesapeake. Today, our Seagirt Marine Terminal management team will update you on marine, gate, and yard technology projects. However, before they get started, I would like to take a moment to recognize all of our employees' efforts to maintain a safe work environment during this difficult time. Our frontline employees have kept Ports America Chesapeake and the Port of Baltimore operating during one of the most challenging periods in our history. Their continued health and safety are of our utmost importance. Safety is a core value and a foundation for our culture that unifies our organization and us. Now I'd like to share a relevant safety topic contact for all of us. April is National Safety Council's Distracted Driving Month. On a typical day, more than 700 people are injured in distracted driving crashes. As we get back out on the roads this summer with friends and family, please commit to distracted-free driving and remember the importance of keeping our focus on the roads and our loved ones safe. Thank you. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that all of this would not be possible without the support of you, our supply chain partners, and our ILA workforce, and of course, our public partner, the state of Maryland. Governor Larry Hogan, the Maryland Department of Transportation and Secretary Greg Slater, the Maryland Port Administration, and of course, Executive Director Bill Doyle. Thank you again for all your support during this time. During the program today, we welcome you to submit questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A function in the Zoom program. However, the chat function will not be available for use and the audience members will not have the opportunity to raise their hand. We will answer questions at the end of the program. Today, this program is also being recorded. Great. Now let's get started. Today we have presentations from Tara Breda, our Customer Service Manager, Ryan Kornke, Director of Terminal Operations, Chuck Hines, Director of Planning and Terminal Development, and Dennis Doherty, Manager of our Gate Operations. Upon completing the presentations, I'll provide a brief recap of 2020 and an outlook for 2021. Great. Well, let's get started now with Tara. Tara, please begin your review of our web-based portal and other customer-facing technology enhancements.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I will be going through some of the online tools on our current TOS Web Portal, as well as the upcoming pre-advise feature that is being added to the site, and I'll explain the benefits of all these tools. To get to our TOS Web Portal from pachesapeake.com, click on the Quick Links tab located at the top menu bar. Then click on the option labeled Seagirt TOS Web Portal. That link will bring you to the login page. If you don't already have an account, click Sign Up to enter your information and create one. It only takes a few minutes. Once logged in, you will be able to use the quick access search box for import container status, including visibility to any holds the container may be on, the location of either vessel, yard and the yard position, or community. If the import is in the yard, you can see if it is released and ready for delivery. If you have an export booking, enter the booking number to view details such as the vessel name, the early return date, the cutoff date, and size, type, and quantity of containers. Under notifications in this quick access box, you can select to be notified via email or text message when there are certain status changes to your import or export containers. Here is an example of import container details. These containers are showing available, yes, and their yard positions are color-coded based on how many containers are stacked on top of them in the pile. A green position means that the container is at the top or end of a pile, and the crane can reach it without having to shift any other containers out of the way. A yellow position means there is one container on top of it, orange has two, and purple has three. If the containers with green positions are dispatched first as often as possible, the cranes will not have to shuffle as many others out of the way to get to the ones underneath, saving time and increasing efficiency. Motor carriers have the option of running gate activity reports to view their drivers' transactions that are currently in progress as well as completed. The search criteria can be adjusted and filtered to show either all or very specific information. Under account preferences, motor carriers can turn on gate notifications to receive an email every time a driver completes a transaction at the terminal. This email includes a link to the equipment interchange receipt, known as an EIR, that the driver also receives at the outbound lane. Also on our portal is a link to our vessel schedule. This schedule is updated daily and shows past, present, and future vessels. If you click on the name of a vessel from a prior day, you will see the date that the import free time started. If you click on the name of a vessel that is currently working, you will see the estimated time that the imports are expected to be all offloaded and available. So now we will discuss the upcoming pre-advise tool. What is pre-advise? We are introducing a system within the TOS Web Portal for motor carriers to notify us in advance of terminal visits. The system offers the ability to conveniently provide future visit information via a single screen. All submissions require the user to have a valid standard carrier alpha code, SCAT code, and enter a truck license plate number from a truck registered to their company. A 4-digit PIN number will be generated and sent via SMS text notification to the driver when the pre-advise is made. The benefits of this system are that it saves time and trouble for the truck arriving at the gate. It provides the terminal visibility for more efficient yard planning and a smoother truck flow. Upon arrival, the driver only needs to provide the 4-digit PIN number for each move, increasing gate throughput and decreasing wait times in line. And paperless gates are environmentally friendly. They allow for virtual dispatching and decrease both inbound and outbound gate processing times. When creating your notification to the terminal, select the type of container that will be dropped off, which would be either an empty or an export load, and or the type of container being picked up, which would be an import load or an empty. Complete the fields that you see on the next screen. You can manage and edit notifications that were submitted at any time before the driver arrives. When entering the visit information, be sure to include the driver's mobile phone number so that they receive a text message as soon as the pre-advise is submitted. The text message will include the 4-digit PIN number and the visit information. This mobile number will also be used to send the driver their inbound routing slips when they arrive, showing them the yard positions to go to, and they will also be sent their completed interchange receipts when exiting the terminal. After the details for each move are submitted and validated by the system, a PIN number for each is generated and displayed on the screen. A copy of each pre-advise is sent to the email address of the user and to the driver's mobile number that was entered for the visit. And here are some examples of what that looks like. The electronic routing slips and interchange receipts will support the paperless gates. Here you can see examples of how each will appear in the link. Implementing these process improvements will save the driver time and trouble and provide us visibility for more effective yard planning, resulting in a smoother truck flow. The paperless gates will reduce paper waste, allow for virtual dispatching, and decrease the truck processing times on the way in and the way out. Thank you.
I think you're on mute, Bard.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Yes, and thank you, Tara. Some very beneficial products for our terminal users. At the end of the day, we really want the transparency on our facilities to improve all parts of the supply chain is really key. We're really excited about the pre-advised product and the paperless gates, and getting that information to the companies and to the drivers and having that predictability for users coming to our facilities. Now we have Ryan Kornke, our Director of Terminal Operations for Seagirt Marine Terminal. Ryan's going to update us on our new optimized drayage product known as Digital Free Flow.
Yep.
Digital Free Flow will improve the velocity of import deliveries, the overall trucker experience, and provide additional value to our beneficial cargo owners. Ryan?
Yep. Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Tara. And thank you all again for joining us this morning. Another project currently under development that will add efficiencies to the terminal is an optimized drayage solution, also known as Digital Free Flow. Digital Free Flow is an application that identifies the most accessible import container based on a grouping of containers provided by the motor carrier or BCO in advance of the terminal visit. Eligible containers are in the terminal, fully released and available for pickup. Digital Free Flow provides the speed and transactional benefits of a physical import free flow or POPOL operation without the extra labor and yard capacity normally required. This premium service will be available to all carriers at a posted fee. The most efficient container move is selected by the system once the export or empty drop-off is submitted by the yard staff. Container location in the stack, available equipment, and yard congestion are examples of terminal conditions analyzed to help determine the most efficient container move. The port driver will receive the most updated yard position via SMS text on your smartphone once the drop-off move is complete. The driver will proceed to the import pickup location. At that time, the RTG will load the identified container onto the truck, and the truck will proceed to the outbound lanes where they will exit utilizing a paperless gate transaction. Thanks, Bart. Back to you.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Great product, great introduction. We hope to have that out in potentially in Q3 of this year to start to roll out our Digital Free Flow product. Now we have Chuck Hines, our Director of Planning and Terminal Development. Chuck is going to give us an update on the Seagirt Berth 3 expansion and yard densification projects. Good morning, Chuck.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Bart. Good morning, everybody. Today we'll go through about 15 slides detailing the terminal development initiatives we have in place here at Seagirt. That's really focused on three areas: the wharf, the container yard, and the gates. Before we do that, we'd like to play a 5-minute video detailing some of our projects that we have ahead of us over the next 6 years. So while we're waiting for our slides to come up, but there's a lot of construction planned at the site over the next, as I mentioned, 6 years. One of the things that I always want to emphasize when we engage in these projects, just the importance of construction phasing. So that starts with planning. So we always want to plan and phase our construction around the fact that the Port of Baltimore needs to move commerce. We need our over-the-road trucks to come in and out of the facility. Ships, we need ships to arrive and depart on time, as well as trains. So again, it's just critical for us to make sure we phase and plan this accordingly. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll touch on 3 items today. The first is going to be wharf construction. Second, we'll touch on the container yard. The third item will be the gate projects. We're going to start with wharf first. And before we get into our more recent projects and the projects that we're working through today on the wharf, I want to touch on the Panama Canal, because this was really the genesis that kind of started all this development. The Panama Canal discussion started around 2006 on expanding the canal. At that point, ships about 4,500 TEUs could traverse the locks at the canal. So discussions really ramped up around 2007, and the project was initiated to expand those locks to enable 14,000 TEU vessels. It was important, especially with Far East services coming to the East Coast of the United States. So as those discussions progressed and as construction started, marine terminal operators like Ports America Chesapeake had to start looking at planning around these larger vessels. And that's really mostly around wharf improvements and ship-to-shore cranes. And we started that in 2010. So we initiated a project. It was a $105 million project to build out a berth 4. And if you look at the images on the right side of this slide, they're sequenced. So if you look at that top left image, that was berth 4 back in 2010. It was a series of cofferdams. So from there, the cofferdams were removed and we built a wharf structure. We also received 4 superpost Panamax cranes, and we put those cranes in production in 2013. So the wharf structure was completed fourth quarter 2012. Cranes went in production first quarter 2013. Those cranes are 22 rows across. So if you look at a cross-sectional view of a ship, a large container ship, we're able to reach 22 containers across with those cranes. Also, the height of those cranes is significant as well. They're 42.7 meters tall. So that's from the deck to the spreader, so 42 meters tall. So that project, as I mentioned earlier, was completed in 2013, and we've been heavily utilizing that berth since. So in early 2018, the management team here at Ports America Chesapeake started looking at future projects. What was important to continue handling the annualized container volume that was coming through Seagirt. One of the items that we identified pretty early on was the need for a second berth for 14,000 TEU ships. So we started this project in late 2018. This is a $116 million project. It includes a new, obviously, dredging. We need the dredge to -50 feet, just like we have at berth 4 and the channel leading up to berth 4. So we would have to extend that dredging to make access to berth 3 and, of course, the berth pocket as well. For the dredging, we'd have to put a tow wall in place. That's just in front of the wharf structure itself. We also needed to do some pile and beam maintenance on the structure itself, the substructure. We also had to add mooring and berthing hardware. So these are bollards and fenders. And this program also includes 4 additional new cranes. So we had to put a medium voltage program in place to electrify those cranes. So the berth construction is now underway. If you look to that image on the right, I took that last week. So we're well underway. So talk a little bit more about the berth construction. I mentioned it earlier. what's critical for us is continuity of business operations, right? So we don't want to have any issues with moving ships through the Port of Baltimore. So we phase this project to enable that, right? So we'll have minimal, if any, vessel operation delays. So we've done this in 2 phases. So phase 1 is again, well underway. You saw it in the previous slide. We anticipate completing the phase 1 construction. That'll be done in July, late July. The berth pocket dredging will be completed in late July as well. Once that construction is completed for phase 1, we'll start phase 2. Phase 2 will start just following, so early August. And then we anticipate substantial completion of phase 2 wharf construction and dredging in Q4 of 2021. So a little bit later this year. The MPA is working on the dredging, the channel dredging, and that is now complete. It was complete as of earlier this week. So, Bard mentioned it earlier. I'll mention it again. We have a great relationship with the Maryland Port Administration. We sincerely thank them for the support and the help throughout these projects. So with the redevelopment of berth 3, we do need new ship-to-shore cranes. So we're working towards 8 superpost Panamax cranes to work these larger vessels. What we're going to do is we're going to transition the current cranes that we have. So the cranes that we received in 2013 and put in production, we'll transition those cranes from berth 4 into berth 3. And we're now building new STS cranes, so ship-to-shore cranes. That's an image on the right where the cranes are being manufactured. That image was taken last week. So we're currently working through endurance testing with those cranes. And once that is completed, we'll take that upper portion of the crane, the upper works, and we'll lower it. And then the ships will, of course, make the transit here at the Seagirt Marine Terminal. The vessels will depart around mid-June, June 6th in that area. And they'll arrive, it's a 60-day transit, so they'll arrive here at the facility in mid-August. So, the upper section, as I mentioned earlier, has to be lowered so they'll fit underneath the spans of the Bay Bridge and, of course, the Francis Scott Key Bridge as well. So once the cranes arrive, they will go to berth 4 and be commissioned there. That'll be on the eastern end of berth 4. A little bit more detail about the new cranes. I mentioned earlier about the working rows of the cranes that we have today. There are 22 working rows. The new cranes will be 23 working rows and maybe even beyond that. So the cranes are wider, and that's illustrated here in this image. So the yellow bar represents our current cranes, and the green bar represents the new cranes. So you can see that they're higher. They're actually 25 feet higher. So if you're standing on the wharf and you're looking at the spreader, the new cranes are 50 meters in comparison to 40 meters with the previous, so 25 feet taller. And again, that outreach is so critical. One of the things I want to highlight with these cranes as well, the cranes that were received in 2013 were built 14,000 TEU ships. So, we didn't want that to be a constraint going forward if the vessels were to get larger. So these cranes, again, 23 working rows, they can work larger ships if that's needed here in the future of the Port of Baltimore. All right, so the next item we want to touch on are the developments that are going on inside the container yard. So with that, it's really 3 items to touch on. One is we're increasing the amount of import blocks in the facility. It's called densification. The second is procuring RTG cranes. And the third item are refrigerated container racks or reefer racks. All right, so the image to the right shows an overview of Seagirt Marine Terminal. Today, the facility has 4 berths. Behind each of the berths, there are a series of blocks. And within those blocks are RTG, rubber tire gantry cranes, RTG cranes operate within those blocks. So today, our current layout, you'll see just below that image, the current layout has 5 blocks, okay? So that gives us 20 working blocks today for storing and delivering import containers. Our future layout, we will move to 28 blocks. So the future layout includes 7, and that's a cross-sectional view, 7 RTGs. What's significant about this is we're doing this within the same footprint. So if we take our current footprint, we're moving to that future footprint, and we're operating more cranes within more blocks within the same footprint. So that is significant for us. So in doing so, we're adding more capacity for storing import containers, and we're also adding additional load lanes for over-the-road trucks. So if we have 20 load lanes today, we'll have 28 load lanes underneath these RTG cranes. So a little bit more about our RTG cranes. We've made the announcement previous. We are buying 15 new 1/6 RTG cranes. The cranes are hybrid, but they also operate in full electric mode. So we will begin rolling out an electrification program for these cranes. That'll start later this year, ahead of the arrival of the new cranes. The new cranes will arrive in blocks of 5. So 15 will get 3 deliveries, 3 separate shifts, 5 cranes each delivery, and that starts in January of 2022. I wanted to touch on the migration of our RTG cranes. So in the early 2000s, we purchased 12 cranes, and those were 1/4 cranes. You can see that's illustrated there. And in 2016, 2017, we procured an additional 10 cranes, and there were 1/5. So today we have 22 cranes. In the first quarter of 2022, as I mentioned, we'll start receiving those new cranes, and they're 1/6. So you can see that our cranes are getting larger, they're getting taller. Our new cranes are actually a little bit wider as well. So I just wanted to touch on the size of the cranes, the capacity of those. So, we want to stay ahead of refrigerated container volume. It's our intentions also to design and deploy reefer racks. This will be done over the first and second quarter of 2022. These racks are in design right now. The racks will be serviced by RTG cranes, and our intentions are to have these racks located within our traditional RTG rows. So we will not travel a crane into a different section of our facility. They'll be aligned with our current, again, in traditional RTG rows for fast service of the refrigerated containers. Also with this project, Seagirt Marine Terminal will more than double the amount of reefer plugs that we have available for these containers. I also wanted to touch on additional equipment. So we're obviously receiving 4 new STS cranes. We have the 15 RTG cranes, both significant investments. We're also making significant investments in top loaders and yard trucks as well. So this year we will receive 10 additional top loaders for handling our export and empty containers. And we're also procuring 30, as I mentioned, 30 additional yard trucks as well.
Great, Chuck. Thank you very much. Great overview of our marine and yard capacity improvements. I think Chuck really touches on a good point, and part of our webinar today is to make people aware of, one, the growing of capacity here, but then also how do we phase these construction projects and not impact our trucking customers or our marine customers, our carrier customers as well, is really key to us in how we roll out these projects and the importance of them. So now we'll hear from Dennis Doherty, our operations manager. Dennis oversees all of our gate operations at Seagirt Marine Terminal. And Dennis is going to provide us an update on the Broning Highway and Newvale Gate projects. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning. Thank you, Bart, and good morning, everyone else here. First thing I want to touch on is the Broning Highway Gate project. So Ports America Chesapeake has begun construction of a new 1-stage gate. In our current environment, the Seagirt Marine Highway Gate is a two-stage gate. Once you enter the facility, the first stage is at one of our static scales where the over-the-road driver will create their transaction. After the transaction is created, the over-the-road driver proceeds to a second stage at the inbound canopy for a container inspection. Our goal moving forward is to streamline that process. The new Browning Highway Gate will be a one-stage gate. Now, for those who frequent Seagirt Marine Terminal and have been in the terminal recently in the past couple of weeks, you have noticed the start of some construction in the inbound queuing area, and that'll be where our weigh in motion building is going to be erected. The new weigh in motion building is similar to what currently exists at our Newville entrance. This 3-lane building will be equipped with RFID, weigh in motion scales, and OCR and digital imaging portals. Now, when a driver arrives at one of the 3 lanes of the weigh in motion building, the weight is recorded and paired up with the truck's RFID. The driver will then proceed to the inbound canopy where the transaction is created. During the short transit from the weigh in motion building to the inbound canopy, the container will be remotely inspected, which is a similar process to what we have at our Newville gate entrance for those who are familiar with that. This streamlines the inbound process. It'll link up with the pre-advised data, as Tara had mentioned earlier on the call. And this creates a one-stage gate and minimizes our inbound queuing time. There will also be a bypass lane around the weigh in motion building for any out-of-gauge cargo. The anticipated completion time of the Browning Highway Gate project is the third quarter of 2021. All right, next I'll touch on the Newville outbound gate project. As you saw in the video and what Chuck's been mentioning, there's a lot more equipment, a lot more cranes, RTGs being added across the terminal, which means we're anticipating handling a higher volume of containers. This creates a need for an additional outbound. In our current environment, we have 2 inbound gates into the terminal and only 1 outbound option. We understand we need to make the change to successfully manage our growth and maintain a fluid operating terminal. The Newville outbound gate includes 3 gate truck exit lanes, 2 RPMs, 2 OCR and digital imaging portals, and RFID sensors. The Newville outbound gate will be parallel to our inbound gate on Newville Street. We will also create a new entrance into our ICTF or our rail facility for our internal trucks carrying rail import containers. With the Howard Street Tunnel project potentially doubling our rail capacity, we are preparing for the increase in rail throughput. So this new entrance will help with the terminal traffic flow, as it will mitigate internal traffic in the inbound queuing areas. As you see right now, when you come in on Browning Highway, you do have internal trucks. That'll definitely cut back on the amount of internal trucks you'll see in your inbound queue. We anticipate the start of construction of our Newville Gate project to be in the 4th quarter of 2021 and hope to wrap up the project in about the 2nd quarter of 2022. And as Chuck mentioned earlier, projects are done in phases to minimize the impact on day-to-day operations. So we hope to wrap up our inbound Browning Highway Gate, move on to Newville one step at a time to minimize our footprint. And how will these projects affect, my experience at Seagirt Marine Terminal? The Browning Highway Gate project with the weigh in motion building will streamline your inbound queuing time, as it will go from a 2-stage gate to a 1-stage, and utilizing what Tara had mentioned with pre-advised is another step to streamlining that process. The Newville Gate project will increase our outbound lanes by 50%, which is an awesome increase and hopefully cut back on a lot of terminal traffic. That's all I got.
Great, Dennis. Thank you very much. Appreciate that great insight into those gate projects and the value that they're going to bring for our trucker experience here at Seagirt Marine Terminal. Quickly now, I'll just provide a brief overview of 2020. 2020 was a very challenging year, as all of us are aware. Even with the global pandemic, we handled over 640,000 containers and over 1 million TU. As most of our supply chain partners that are on the call today realize, we saw that really strong, robust rebound in Q3 and Q4 that is really held up through Q1 of this year as well. The most significant increases definitely fell in the e-commerce realm, as consumer spending really ramped up last year. Home improvement ramped up. Those are the areas where we really saw the increases. And, we've saw that in our mid-Atlantic market as well. Many of the projects that you see here today, during the global pandemic, we were working hard, kicking off those projects, getting them started. And, that's why we are where we are today with a lot of those projects, because the hard work that the team on the call here today did last year. 2021, what does that look like? A new, brighter year ahead, with vaccinations, and as the country opens back up, we definitely feel that supply chain disruptions, are going to continue to a smaller extent, but should improve throughout the year. Volume is expected to remain strong through peak season, and we believe even through the end of the year. E-commerce, you've heard it from me, you hear it from Bill Doyle, many others, about how strong the e-commerce market is in our mid-Atlantic region because of our consumer market and our proximity to that market. That same day, next day, being in the Port of Baltimore allows you to do that same day, next day, to get those products out that we all want through e-commerce. And we're really also seeing that in the commercial real estate market and how that has been developing. We will have a challenging year ahead. All of the projects that you heard about today, really phasing those projects into operations and not impacting operations to where we can get the future value out of those projects for the customer. One last thing I'd like to touch on, I hope everybody got to see the great article in the Baltimore Sun today about the Howard Street Tunnel. What a great infrastructure project for the Port of Baltimore, the state of Maryland. Really great to see the public-private partnership there with the Howard Street Tunnel. It is truly going to be a game changer for the Port of Baltimore. Thank you again to Governor Hogan, Secretary Slater, CSX, our federal partners, the Maryland Port Administration, Bill Doyle, and everyone who has really helped with that project. Very exciting to see that kick off this year. Now we'll take a look at some of the questions submitted during the webinar. Okay, so one of the first questions I have here is, once a pre-advise is scheduled, the driver only needs the PIN number at the pedestal to check in. Yes, that is correct. When the pre-advise is made, a message is sent directly to the driver with that PIN number. When he gets to the pedestal, he will convey that PIN number to the clerk, and then the transaction will be processed. Another question we have here is, when will we start using pre-advised notifications? We see a ton of value in pre-advise, in getting the trucks in and out quicker, having that predictability, having that transparency. We're thinking in the next couple of weeks that, we're going to slowly start rolling that product out. Getting that product out is really important to not only Ports America, but also to the trucking community here in Baltimore. Got another question here. Are the green, yellow, orange, and purple colored designations going to now change in light of the fact that PAC is moving container stacks to 6 high with the anticipated arrival of the 15 new Coney Crane RTGs 1 to 6? Yep, we will be changing that color scheme because of the 1 to 6. It's really important to look at that for the efficiency of the facility, and then also looking at the new digital free flow product that we have is really will provide value moving forward. See if we have a couple more questions here. Let me see. There's one about the cost structure for the service. We're still looking at that now for the digital free flow. And, before we roll out the product, we'll have another webinar here with the community where we'll discuss what that looks like. So Pre-Advise is a free service. It doesn't cost the trucking community anything. Really, it's our meetings with the Intermodal Council and the Maryland Motor Truck Association is the feedback we got there from the trucking community is the basis of how we developed Pre-Advise. Pre-Advise is not an appointment system. It's really just a pre-notification of what's going to happen on the facility. A lot of that feedback is why we implemented the SMS function in Pre-Advise so that the drivers can directly get those messages and that we can then move to a paperless inbound and outbound gates. And then we can also alter dispatch throughout the process to be more efficient for the future. I have another question here. Pre-advised paperless gates, how will the drivers interact with the crane operators? Similar to what they're doing today. It'll be similar functionality, whether it's done through RFID or done manually. It'll be a similar interaction there today. Just looking to see. So I have one. What about the safe operation of the drivers? Will there be a location to pull over while viewing the PIN? Yes. Our view is that, the driver is going to receive that PIN while he is behind a gate arm being processed there. So, he should take the time at that point and extract the PIN, extract the routing slip that he has received there and go through the facility. Same way on the outbound, he'll receive that outbound EIR via SMS. He should stop, of course, review that before leaving the facility. Great. Well, I don't see any more questions here today. I would like to thank everyone, all of our supply chain partners. As I said previously, without your partnership, support, input, is how we make the facility better. As I said, what you saw today is us growing marine yard gate capacity for the future, and then looking at technology to how we improve the experience on the facility for the trucking community and also bring value to our beneficial cargo owners is really important to us. So, with that, thank you everyone again for attending today. Truly appreciate your partnership and thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day.